Salt Lake City is on the verge of a major transformation. Now, we've already seen so much change in downtown Salt Lake City that it's become almost unrecognizable for many if you haven't visited Utah or Salt Lake City in the last handful of years. From a booming skyline with a new tallest building in Utah just being completed, as well as the addition of a new major sports team in our new NHL team, the Utah Hockey Club, as well as the potential addition of a Major League Baseball team right here to Salt Lake City, as well as new transit systems, and of course, the 2034 Winter Olympics. This city, my hometown, is gearing up for some of the biggest changes that this city has ever seen. But what does this mean for you? Whether you live in Utah or you're looking to make the move here, these decisions, these things that are happening in Salt Lake City don't just affect Salt Lake City itself, it affects the entire state of Utah. And so if you are one of those people that's looking to make the move within the state, or you're looking to make the move to the state of Utah, stick around because I'm going to break down what Salt Lake City might look like in the coming decade as we get closer and closer to the Winter Olympics in 2034. And let's start with what might be the biggest headline of the coming decade here in Salt Lake City, and that's the Winter Olympics. And if you were here in 2002 when the Winter Olympics first came to Salt Lake City, you'd likely understand what this felt like. And you'd also understand how huge that was for Salt Lake City in what I like to call its coming out party. Whether you like the growth that we've seen since the 2002 Winter Olympics or not, regardless, we're going to see more and more growth as the 2034 Winter Games arrive, but also long after the Winter Games as well. And ultimately, it's not just about the games, it's the infrastructure, it's the changes, it's the investments made into the state of Utah that help drive that growth. And it's widely and often considered that the Winter Olympics here in 2002 are the most successfully run Winter Olympics that we've seen, despite the fact that it kind of started out with a scandal, if you know what that is, but the games were run incredibly well. And one of the things that really is a standout, especially with respect to host city of Winter or Summer Olympics, all of the venues that we built and used for the 2002 Winter Games have not only been maintained and used since, they are only going to thrive and be restored and built upon and added on for the 2034 Winter Games. And I think of this as a very responsible way of hosting the Winter Olympics. And I do believe that in the near future, we could see a future of host cities that kind of become a round robin of just a handful of cities that host the Winter Games as well as the Summer Games. We're also likely going to see major infrastructure investments, not only at the state level, but as well as the federal level, to help handle the influx of not only visitors, of people that the games are going to bring into Salt Lake City and to Utah. And the economic boost is projected to be anywhere from $6 to $7 billion just for those couple weeks during the Winter Games that are the result not only from the games, but also the tourism as well as the global attention. And while thousands of people will be coming to visit Salt Lake City and Utah during the Winter Games, it's also going to affect the housing market long after the games are here. It's going to drive up rental prices as well as home prices, and it's definitely going to drive up the demand for short-term rentals. We are also going to see many more companies that are international choosing to invest in the state of Utah. And ultimately, my biggest concern, as well as the concern of so many others as a result of hosting the 2034 Olympics, are two things: the cost of living and the congestion. And ultimately, this begs the question, is Utah really ready for this? And so I'm asking you, drop a comment, let me know. What do you think about this? Do you feel that Salt Lake City is or will be prepared and ready for those Winter Olympics? Let me know in the comments below. If you've been in downtown Salt Lake City lately in the last handful of years, you've probably noticed that there are cranes literally everywhere throughout the city. And look, Salt Lake City has grown from being a small city into a legitimate mid-sized city, and it's really grown at a fast rate. And the growth that's going to continue to change Salt Lake City's skyline from now up to the 2034 Olympics is going to be another massive change. And one of those developments that is just being completed right now as we speak is the new tallest building in the state of Utah, which is the Astra Tower. And look, while this building and Utah's buildings in general pale in comparison to that of other major cities like New York City, it is a big deal in Salt Lake City, and we're likely going to see many more buildings that exceed the height of the Astra Tower in the coming handful of years. In fact, there have been recent approvals not only in the sports and entertainment district, where the redevelopment of the Delta Center and the 5 city blocks around around it are going to take place, but also on the west side of the city in the Power District at the proposed site for a potential Major League Baseball team. All in all, we're likely going to see a lot of taller buildings, high-rise as well as mid-rise buildings being built in Salt Lake City. Another beautiful new building that's added to Salt Lake City's skyline is the Worthington. Now, the Worthington is not as tall as the Astor Tower, but it is a 31-story building, so that's worth making note of, and it's really just one of many buildings that we're likely going to see from now until 2034. We're also seeing a lot of new office spaces as well as hubs for not only innovation, but co-working spaces or other types of businesses that are catering to the demand in downtown Salt Lake City itself. And so why is all of this happening? Look, the population growth in Utah has been the highest in the nation from 2010 till today, and it looks like that projected growth looking out over the next decade and beyond is going to stay true to what we've seen in the previous decade as well. And this is happening for two reasons. Number one, we have higher birth rates in Utah than anywhere else in the nation. But number two, we are a top destination for people relocating from other states, especially states like California. And honestly, I get to talk to people that are moving to Utah, and I get to share my passion, not only with Californians, but people that are moving here from all over the country about Utah and all that Utah has to offer. And honestly, it's something that I absolutely love to do. But beyond the increase in population, we're also seeing a major shift and increase in businesses that are relocating here, or businesses that are choosing to make Utah their headquarters. We're seeing that happen not only in the tech industry, but also the finance industry, as well as the healthcare industry. We're seeing so many businesses choosing to move to Utah, and that's bringing along with it so many more people that are moving here from out of state. And the bottom line is Salt Lake City is really positioning itself to kind of be the next Denver or Austin. Whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I truly believe that if Salt Lake City does become the next Denver or Austin, we're going to do it better. We're going to find ways to just do it better. Now, don't hate on me if you're from Austin or Denver, because those are beautiful cities as well in their own right. But I do believe that Salt Lake City provides something that no other American city provides, and that's the balance between the urban environment and the outdoors and nature. No other city comes close. So what do you think of the changing Salt Lake City skyline? Do you love this growth, or do you miss the old Salt Lake City? Let me know in the comments below. And look, let's be honest, Salt Lake City is not LA. It's not Southern California. It's not Houston. It's not some of these cities that have terrible congestion and traffic yet. It's going to get that way if we don't keep up with the infrastructure development that we're already building, and if we don't develop and project out into the near future to see what those needs are going to be. And ultimately, how are we going to get around with all of this projected growth? Let's take a look. First off, let's talk about the TRAX light rail expansion. We already are seeing expansion along 4th South and 4th West in Salt Lake City, but I personally believe that we're going to see much more expansion as we get closer and closer to the 2034 Olympics. This expansion is very likely going to dramatically change the current infrastructure in terms of public transportation. Next up, we have our beautiful new international airport. We're going to see more gates, more flights, more international flights. That airport is well equipped and positioned to handle millions and millions of more travelers, and it will be well prepared for the 2034 Olympics, but it's also well prepared for the growing city in Salt Lake City. And if we're talking about other infrastructure with respect to freeways and highways, we're currently seeing highways being converted to freeways. We're also seeing brand new freeways being built on the west side of Davis County leading up into Weber County in the West Davis corridor. We're also seeing that in Salt Lake County in the Mountain View corridor that runs all the way from I-80 to the north, down through the entire county and into Utah County in Saratoga Springs and connecting with I-15 in Lehigh. We're also going to see more growth happening in the south end of Utah County, as well as other major projects that are going to move people around even better. I also project that we're going to see major expansion of infrastructure along the Wasatch Back up in the mountains to the east of Salt Lake City. But ultimately, will it be enough? With more than 500,000 new projected residents over the next decade, we're going to have to manage not only our highways, freeways, but we're going to have to manage other things as well to make sure that we can keep up with this expansive growth. And one of the things that I personally like is that it's really spurring the development of new developments in residential areas that are more walkable and more bikeable. I kind of like this a lot. I live in one of those communities in Daybreak where we get to take advantage of 50+ miles of trails and all of the amenities that are provided right there in the community. And it feels very different than when you're living in a different suburban setting where you don't have those advantages. But at the same time, I want to consider my blind spots. Am I missing something? Is there something that's going to pop up that I'm not even noticing right now? That's very likely going to happen as well. Okay, Salt Lake City is serious about getting a Major League Baseball team here. And honestly, as a baseball fan myself, I'm really excited, but also it's probably closer than anyone might expect. Utah is very well prepared to bring in a new expansion franchise or attract a franchise from a different state. Whatever happens, if it happens like what happened with the new NHL team here in Utah, it could happen incredibly fast. And if we rewind just 1 year ago, we saw the state legislative session here pass a bill to provide some funding in the form of hotel taxes and other taxes that will help fund the development of this project in the Power District just west of downtown Salt Lake City. This is an area that honestly needs a lot of development, and it's really cool to see the proposal and the renderings that they put out that will transform this part of Salt Lake City. It also includes the Jordan River running right through it, and as you can see in the renderings, it's going to preserve the smokestacks from the former power plant, as well as highlight the Salt Lake City skyline over left field, and right over center field, looking out, you'll see the Wasatch Mountains at their fullest point. It is a perfect skyline for baseball, and look, it's not just the stadium, it would be part of a massive entertainment district that's going to boost tourism as well as tax dollars that are generated within this district. It's going to bring in millions and millions of dollars in revenue and elevate Salt Lake City to being a major sports city. Think of this, Salt Lake City can go from having just one major sports team to now having 3 of the 4 major sports teams right here in downtown Salt Lake City, as well as being a 2-time host city for the Winter Games. The question arises, is Salt Lake City becoming a major sports hub in the country? Who would have thought that just a decade ago? And look, I don't want to just look at this through rose-colored goggles. Can Utah actually support a Major League Baseball team? Are there enough corporate sponsorships as well as enthusiasts or fans that are going to fill those seats? I believe so. They've done proper market research. In fact, I got to participate in that market research years ago when they were doing it, but it's really cool to see what could happen, but there are other concerns as well. And the number one concern for most people is funding concerns. Who's going to pay for all of this? The Larry H. Miller Group of companies is leading the way to attract a Major League Baseball team here, and they are heavily invested in building and developing this area and bringing in a team. The state is also cooperating in providing space and land and being part of that development, as well as providing up to $900 million in funding from hotel taxes that are generated from that development. And so that leads me to, okay, we're well prepared. It's shovel ready. Everything has been approved as of 2024, right up until December of 2024 when they had to get everything through. It's all done. The land has been acquired. They're ready to go. They're ready to build. And unlike other cities like Las Vegas, who have recently attracted the Oakland Athletics to move to Las Vegas, they're experiencing major hurdles in the development of their new stadium. So could the Athletics end up coming here? I doubt it, but you never know. Things can go south very quickly. There are other cities as well that currently have baseball stadiums and teams where things are just not working. Namely, the Tampa Bay Rays. Their stadium was already going to have to be rebuilt prior to a hurricane tearing its roof off, and now the city of St. Petersburg, as well as the county, as well as the Tampa area, is not looking like it's going to be a promising site for their future. And so could that team end up moving to Orlando? Might they move to a different city? Might the team owner sell the team altogether? Who knows? That's just one of many things, but there's also another team on the radar just south of us in Phoenix in the Arizona Diamondbacks. And although we just attracted their hockey team, their NHL team here, and basically they probably feel like we stole that team from them, it could happen with baseball as well, because they too are experiencing stadium challenges that it doesn't look like are going to get resolved in time in a couple of years when they have to have that taken care of. Regardless of what happens, if a team decides to sell and the Larry H. Miller Group chooses to purchase that team and bring it and relocate it to Utah, or if we happen to fall in line with an expansion team that looks like it could happen in the next handful of years, time will tell. We're just going to have to wait this out and see what happens. So drop a comment below and let me know, would you like Salt Lake City and Utah to have a Major League Baseball team? And if so, what do you think the name of that team should be? Drop a comment and let me know. Okay, next up, let's talk about some of the big social and legal changes that are going to change the landscape here in Utah in the next decade. First off, let's talk about public employee union restrictions. Some big shifts in labor laws are affecting teachers, firefighters, police officers, all of those things right here in Salt Lake City and in Utah. Those are really of concern to many people. I'm curious what your thoughts are, but honestly, this is really going to play into Utah's future, as well as other policies pertaining to affordable housing. Will Utah lawmakers do enough to keep housing within reach reach for future generations. And as I always say, the greatest threat to Utah's future is the affordable housing crisis. If my children and my future grandchildren cannot afford to live here, what's the point, right? So we've got to make sure that we tackle these problems head on, and I'm really curious how this is going to play out. And honestly, I'm really looking to get involved, especially with affordable housing, to make sure that I can play a role in the difference about what we're going to see happen over the next decade. And so there are some big changes, some big discussions that are happening about Utah's future. And how do you feel about these changes? I know how I feel. I'm curious how you feel. But ultimately, whether you live in Utah already, or you're looking to relocate to Salt Lake City or the Salt Lake City area, or anywhere in the state of Utah, my team and I would love to be a real estate resource of choice for you. Make sure that you reach out to us. You can find my contact information in the description. You can also text home to the phone number that you'll find there, as well as book a video call with me in the pinned comment on this and every video. And if I've earned it, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel. It really helps me reach more people just like you and make sure that I can keep educating people on everything they need to know about making a smooth move to the state of Utah. And if you're looking to learn more about life in Utah, check out this playlist next. And until the next video, thanks.